Hi everyone. So I'll say a few things on the news that Elon Musk has finalized his takeover of Twitter. He's the new owner of Twitter. Before I get into that, breaking news in the last few hours that Jerry Lee Lewis has died at 87. One of the pioneers, of course, of rock and roll and the wild man of rock and roll. Controversial character, of course. He married his young cousin. He often had legal problems, alcohol problems, but pioneer musician. So he's died at 87. Um, so I want to talk about this Twitter takeover because it's making a lot of commentary. um, there's also been another big development tonight, which actually may not be 100% on related, and I'll clarify what I mean by that. And that is the news that Nancy Pelosi's husband has been violently attacked. I understand he's fighting for his life. Pretty serious. An armed intruder went into their house. Apparently, he was looking for the speaker and attacked her husband. There's been condemnation, of course, from across the board, including Republicans. I don't know if Trump's condemned it yet or not. I hope he opens his mouth and actually says something useful in terms of condemning this. Um, and it's an ongoing story, so what the motivation was or what the precise ideology behind the attacker was will remain to be seen. But I don't think it would be too far-fetched to imagine that this person is part of this kind of conspiracy theory set who believe the election was stolen and that Pelosi is one of the enemies of Trump supporters and so on. Time will tell, but to me, that is a visceral, empirical example of how opinions and ideology are not just words, they can have an impact. And that's kind of a big part of this debate over Musk's takeover of Twitter because he's vowed to make it a lot more free, and his idea is to make it sort of like public square of the internet. Now, um, my own feelings on Musk, I don't know. He's obviously the richest man in the world, so there's a lot of focus on him. The way he goes about things, he's got a certain approach and personality which is quite flippant sometimes. Um, And I'm not a huge fan of that, to be honest. I mean, his approach to Ukraine, for example, on one hand, he supplies the Ukrainians with this Skylink technology, and that's no doubt been very important. On the other hand, he openly mouths the idea of them ceding Crimea, which plays into the Kremlin's playbook. He also apparently threatened to pull out the Skylink support because Ukrainian officials were, quote, rude to him. Now, to me, this is kind of egoism. It's kind of Musk playing games with a war from his own ego. It's a bit like the Thai cave rescue when he branded one of the rescuers a pedo guy, and there was a whole legal case around that. Now, apparently, the man was quite rude as well. To be fair, he was rude about Musk interfering in the thing when Musk was trying to help, but. I don't really join the bandwagon of those who kind of idolize Musk. I don't know. I don't know if you could become the richest man in the world without a few shady deals along the way. I don't think you could get to that level of extreme wealth, like mega wealth, without something nefarious in the process. The same with Jeff Bezos. In the case of Bezos, actually, yeah, Amazon. I mean, I don't want to go off topic here, but the way Amazon treats its employees, it's a very controversial record on that. I don't think you could become to get to the level of wealth that Musk has. I mean, people say Rishi Sunak's wealthy. Elon Musk is astronomically wealthy. So I don't know. I just don't follow this kind of idolizing of him that some seem to go into. But anyway, those who support Musk, they say this is good for freedom of speech and it's good for because the argument is that Twitter has been too left wing and too censorious. I've been on Twitter now for about a year, less than that even. I don't use it extensively, not as much as I use some other social media sites. I don't have very strong views on it, other than it does seem to be a powder keg. for public figures getting into hot water over something they've said. Now, is it too censorious? Is it too biased to the left? And is that criticism of it valid? Maybe. I honestly don't know enough from personal experience to really say that. Um, but if it's a case that people are being censored simply for having politically incorrect views, or that's the argument, then yeah, there does need to be a bit of a pushback against that. Um, Now, Musk himself, as I understand it, has said that he is a strong believer in free speech. He's made a big thing of this, but within the law. He's put that caveat. And he himself has said he is going to take this seriously and it's not going to be like a free for all hellscape. That's good. That's good if he's, being responsible in terms of his approach with it. I just hope he doesn't sort of see this as a flippant thing. Again, down to ego or whatever, because he's so astronomically wealthy, he can just buy it. And then, well, anything goes. Already, apparently, Kanye West has had his account reinstated. This was after his anti Semitic outburst. And there's speculation Trump could get his Twitter account back. Well, the way I see that is a former president of the United States who's spreading blatant lies, spreading conspiracy theories. That's a serious thing because here's the thing about free speech: words have consequences. Um, but just to be clear, I support free speech. I support free speech as broadly as possible. I think it should be even allowed for people to be offensive or controversial. Where I draw a line is violent threats or incitement to violence or um, pushing reckless lies. I mean, let me just present a scenario. Let's say you have someone who labels a public figure falsely as a predator. Let's say they're labeled as part of a child sex ring, just as for the sake of argument. Now, let's say they keep pushing this and pushing this to their followers, and they publish that person's address, and they keep pushing these lies. This is just a scenario. And then a group of people enraged go to that person's house and they kill them or seriously injure them because they've been led to believe that this person is a dangerous, satanic leader of a child sex ring or something like that. I mean, that's the sort of thing that QAnon believes, right? So it's not totally far fetched. And with what's happened tonight with Nancy Pelosi's husband, there are people out there in American society, and no doubt we have our share of them as well, who are willing to use violence um, against their opponents. So it's not just hot air, it's not just hyperbole. I think when you get someone like Donald Trump, who is a narcissist, who is pushing lies online, um, the idea of free speech shouldn't be that people don't have accountability for their own words. And I hope Musk acknowledges that. So if he said that he doesn't want it to become this free for all hellscape, hopefully that is a sign that he does acknowledge that. But those who say that free speech is absolute, in Western liberal democracy, free speech is one of the absolute hallmarks of free societies, right? The idea that we state our opinion, that we can criticize those in power, that we can criticize the government, it's extremely important. Indeed, in America, it's protected by the First Amendment. And in Britain, going right back to Magna Carta, it's part of the very idea of liberty, right? And I believe that. I go with that. I look around the world where there are some very harsh laws. In Thailand, the lèse majesté laws, making it illegal to criticize the monarchy. In Pakistan, blasphemy laws. Um, so I do believe strongly that people should have freedom of conscience. But I think if you have people, particularly people in a position of power, such as the former president of the United States, and they are engaging in proven lies, should they not be accountable for that? Should they not be held to account? Um, and that side of it, I don't think is being considered enough by those who are just sort of. I mean, Musk had the sarcastic quote, "The bird is free," but I don't know. Time will tell. Maybe Musk will be responsible. It won't be a free for all, as some of his supporters seem to think it will be. And I don't think it should be. I don't think that people, for example, there is no legal right to make threats, for example. Now, these people contradict themselves because they'll say, oh, freedom of speech is absolute, whether you like it or not. But then they will acknowledge that legally there isn't a right to make violent threats. They'd say that's not protected by free speech laws. Okay, well, then you're conceding the point that freedom of speech is not absolute, never has been. Because if freedom of speech was absolute, we could say literally anything we want. I can make a video right now, basically just inciting violence against someone I don't like or a group of people I don't like literally calling for my subscribers to target them. But I couldn't do that. It would violate YouTube's community guidelines. Um, I'm wary of absolute anything, actually. Um, that's all I would say. But having said that, if there is a case of left wing bias, and if it is a case that there has been far too much censorship, people have been penalised over trivial matters, then it's good that there's a rollback against that because people should have the right to state controversial views or provocative views as long as it's within the law, as long as it's not threatening people, and as long as it's not lies. But I do think a lot of the stuff Trump comes out with is dangerous. I think Trump's a threat to democracy. I mean, this is a man who still refuses to accept that he lost. He still encourages his supporters to believe that. Um, so yeah, I think Trump's a threat to democracy. But there's left wing equivalents. Absolutely, there's left wing equivalents. So yeah, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it. If it means less overt censorship, that's definitely a good thing. But those who say that, absolute free speech is part of liberty and democracy are deluded. There is not absolute free speech. There never has been. Unless you believe that people have freedom to say literally anything they want, including threats and defamation. They don't.